7:12 a.m., Columbus, Ohio. Daniel Reed is standing in his driveway in an old gray sweatshirt, trying to get a stubborn lawnmower started. He is 52. He works as a municipal water systems supervisor. His monthly take-home pay is about $6,200. The mower finally coughs to life. Daniel looks at it, shakes his head, and starts cutting the grass himself. His neighbor, meanwhile, is backing a brand new luxury SUV out of a 3-car garage. Daniel's car is a 2013 Honda Accord. His house is comfortable, but unremarkable. His clothes are ordinary. His watch costs less than some people's monthly phone bills. If you were asked which man was wealthy, you would probably choose the wrong one, and that is precisely why Daniel is interesting. Because Daniel has quietly accumulated more than $1.4 million in net worth. And almost nobody on his street knows. Here's the part that should get your attention. Daniel does not look rich because he is not particularly interested in looking rich. For the last 25 years, he has been making a series of decisions that produce almost no visible evidence. He drives a normal car. He repairs things. He waits before upgrading. He buys what works. And when his income rises, his lifestyle usually moves only slightly. The money that could have become a more expensive car, a larger house, or another subscription quietly moves somewhere else. Into investments, into retirement accounts, into assets, into time. That distinction matters because wealth and the appearance of wealth are two completely different financial products. One is visible, the other is remarkably good at hiding. And there are 7 behavioral clues that can help you spot the second one. Sign 1. He doesn't upgrade his life every time his income rises. Daniel got his first meaningful promotion at 31. His salary jumped, his coworkers celebrated. One bought a new truck, another moved into a larger apartment. Daniel did something considerably less interesting. He changed almost nothing. His old car still ran. His apartment was still comfortable. His furniture still performed its assigned functions. So he kept them. This is the first sign. When his income rises, his consumption does not rise at the same speed. Not because he hates spending, because he understands a peculiar property of lifestyle inflation. Once a higher expense becomes normal, reducing it later feels like a loss. You do not experience a $900 monthly car payment as a $900 decision forever. You experience it as your new normal. Then the next raise arrives, and the next normal becomes slightly more expensive. The process is almost invisible. Your income rises, your expenses follow, and your financial position barely changes. The Federal Reserve's latest household survey found that in 2025, the share of adults who said they were doing okay financially or living comfortably was 73%, while price increases remained the most common financial concern. The problem is not that people spend money. The problem is that higher income often gets mentally converted into permission for permanently higher expenses. Daniel never made that conversion. When he received a raise, he treated part of it as capital, not spending money. Capital. That distinction compounded for 20 years. Sign 2. He is perfectly comfortable buying something that doesn't impress anyone. At 47, Daniel's refrigerator finally died. He could have bought the expensive stainless steel model his friends were recommending. Instead, he bought a reliable mid-range refrigerator. It worked. It fit. He stopped thinking about it. That is another clue. A financially secure person often has very little emotional attachment to the status attached to an object. He does not need the purchase to communicate anything. This becomes especially obvious with cars. Daniel knows cars are useful. He also knows they depreciate, so he buys transportation, not an identity. The distinction sounds trivial until you calculate it. Suppose 2 people take home the same $6,200 every month. One spends $1,050 on transportation. The other spends $450. That is a $600 monthly difference. Over 25 years, assuming that difference is invested at 7% annually, the gap grows to roughly $486,000. The original difference was $180,000. Compounding turns the remaining $306,000 into the part nobody can see. That is what makes ordinary choices so dangerous to underestimate. They are small in the month, large over decades. Sign 3. He protects his time more than his image. This one is less obvious. Daniel does not spend money merely to appear successful, but he will spend money to eliminate something genuinely expensive: time. When his washing machine broke, he bought a reliable replacement. When his old laptop became painfully slow, he replaced it. When a contractor could complete a complicated repair safely in 3 hours, Daniel sometimes paid the contractor. He is not cheap. He is selective. That is different. A person who is genuinely financially secure eventually discovers that money has another function beyond purchasing objects. It can purchase freedom from low-value obligations. The important question becomes, does this purchase give me something useful? Not. Will somebody notice it? That distinction creates a strange-looking lifestyle. Daniel will refuse a $90 shirt because he already has 5. Then he will pay $300 for professional help because it saves him an entire Saturday. To someone watching from the outside, his spending looks inconsistent. It isn't. It is optimized around utility. The wealthy person hiding in plain sight is often not the person who spends the least. He is the person who knows why he is spending. Sign 4. He knows what things really cost. Daniel does something mildly irritating when somebody says, "It's only $400 a month." He asks, "For how long?" Because monthly pricing can make almost anything feel harmless. A $400 payment does not look like $4,800 a year. A $4,800 annual commitment does not feel like $48,000 over a decade. And neither number captures what that money could have become if invested. Daniel thinks in total cost, not monthly pain. This is mental accounting. The human brain does not naturally treat every dollar as interchangeable across time. A monthly payment can feel smaller than the total obligation. A discount can feel like a gain even when you were never planning to buy the thing. A raise can feel like permission. A tax refund can feel like free money. Daniel tries to remove those labels. He asks one question: what am I actually giving up to own this? That question is surprisingly powerful because every dollar spent has an alternative. You can spend it, you can save it, you can invest it, you can use it to remove debt, or you can use it to buy back time. The money has to go somewhere. Sign 5. He doesn't need to prove he can afford something. Daniel's friend once joked about his old Honda. "You're a millionaire and you're still driving that thing?" Daniel laughed. Then he got into the Honda and went home. That is the 5th sign. He doesn't need strangers to know what he can afford. There is a peculiar psychological tax attached to visible success. Once people know you can afford something, they begin expecting you to maintain the image. The restaurant becomes more expensive. The vacations become more elaborate. The house becomes larger. The clothes become more recognizable. And eventually, the person is no longer purchasing objects. He is maintaining a reputation. Daniel opted out of the entire system. His friends know he earns good money. They do not know exactly how much he has invested. They do not know the balance of his retirement accounts. They do not know what his brokerage account is worth, and Daniel has no particular interest in telling them. His financial life is private because privacy is cheaper than performance. The New York Fed reported that U.S. household debt reached $18.8 trillion at the end of 2025, with credit card balances at about $1.28 trillion. By the first quarter of 2026, credit card balances had fallen seasonally to about $1.5 trillion, while total household debt remained around $18.8 trillion. Debt itself is not automatically bad. Mortgages can finance productive assets. Business debt can finance growth. But the danger is when visible consumption becomes dependent on future income. Daniel prefers the opposite arrangement. His lifestyle is supported by his income. His wealth is being built by the money his lifestyle does not consume. Sign 6. His financial decisions look boring because they are repeatable. Daniel's investment strategy is not particularly entertaining. He contributes automatically. He diversifies. He avoids constantly trading. He checks his accounts, then he goes back to work. There is no dramatic moment, no secret stock tip, no cryptocurrency prediction delivered by a man shouting into a camera. Just repetition. This is one of the least satisfying truths about wealth. A system that works for 20 years can look extremely unimpressive during any single afternoon. Imagine Daniel had started at 27. For simplicity, freeze his monthly investment at $2,300. If that money compounds at an assumed 7% annual return for 25 years, it grows to approximately $1.86 million. He contributed $690,000. The rest is growth. Now compare that with someone who invests only $600 a month. After the same 25 years at the same assumed return, they have roughly $486,000. Same market, same 25 years, same hypothetical return. The difference is not intelligence. It is the monthly decision. About $1.38 million separates the two paths. And that is why Daniel's life can look boring. The most important thing happening in his financial life is happening somewhere nobody can photograph. 7. His wealth is stored where you cannot easily see it. This is the final sign, and it is the one that explains all the others. Daniel's wealth does not primarily sit on his driveway. It sits in accounts, investments, home equity, retirement assets, ownership, years of accumulated contributions, things that do not attract attention when he walks into a restaurant. This is why trying to identify wealthy people by appearance is such a poor strategy. The expensive car tells you someone owns an expensive car. It does not tell you their net worth. The large house tells you someone lives in a large house. It does not tell you how much equity they have. The designer clothes tell you what someone bought. They tell you almost nothing about what someone kept. The Federal Reserve's 2025 Household Survey shows the same basic distinction in the data. Ownership of financial assets such as retirement accounts, savings, stocks, bonds, ETFs, and mutual funds varies substantially across households. Wealth can exist in places that are largely invisible in everyday social interaction. The Bureau of Labor Statistics provides another useful reminder. In 2024, average U.S. consumer unit spending was $78,535 per year, or about $6,545 per month. Housing and transportation alone represented more than half of average spending. The visible lifestyle, therefore, consumes a surprisingly large amount of the economic machine. Daniel's strategy was different. He tried to make sure that every increase in income did not automatically become an increase in permanent obligations. That left something behind. By now, Daniel's behavior can be reduced to 3 simple rules. Rule 1. The visibility rule. The things that make you look wealthy are often the things that make your wealth harder to build. Not always, but often enough to matter. A car can be useful. A beautiful home can be wonderful. Good clothes can be appropriate. The question is whether the purchase serves your life or performs for someone else's eyes. Daniel stopped paying the second price. The first price was the object. The second price was everything the object prevented him from doing with that money. Rule 2. The raise rule. When income rises, increase investment before increasing lifestyle. Daniel did not freeze his lifestyle forever. That would be another form of extremism. Instead, he created a delay. Raise first, investment second, lifestyle third. So if his income rose by $500 a month, he might invest $350 and spend $150. The lifestyle still improved, just slower than the balance sheet. That single asymmetry is powerful. Rule 3. The invisibility rule. If nobody can see the asset, that does not make it less valuable. A retirement account is not exciting at dinner. An index fund does not turn heads in a parking lot. A paid-off mortgage does not make a good Instagram post. But these things can quietly change the number of choices available to you. And eventually, that is what wealth is buying. Choices. Let's make the comparison painfully simple. 2 men, same age, same take-home pay, same $6,200 monthly income. Call them Daniel and Marcus. Daniel spends approximately $3,900 and directs $2,300 toward investments and long-term financial goals. Marcus spends approximately $5,600 and invests $600. Nothing else changes. The monthly investment gap is $1,700. Over 1 year, that's $20,400. Over 25 years, without any investment growth, that's $510,000. Now, add a hypothetical 7% annual return, compounded monthly. Daniel's $2,300 monthly contribution becomes approximately $1.86 million. Marcus's $600 becomes approximately $486,000. The difference about $1.38 million. And remember, neither man needed a 6-figure salary. Neither needed a private jet. Neither needed a genius investment strategy. The example is intentionally boring, because boring is the point. The arithmetic is not magic. It is time multiplied by consistency. And this is where people frequently misunderstand wealth. They look for the dramatic event, the business exit, the inheritance, the lucky investment, the huge salary. Sometimes those things happen. But for ordinary high net worth households, wealth can also be the cumulative result of decades of spending less than they could have spent and investing the difference. The millionaire was not hiding because he had a secret wardrobe. He was hiding because his most important financial decisions were invisible. Daniel learned this from his grandfather. When Daniel was 27, he received his first serious promotion. He came home excited. He told his grandfather he was finally going to upgrade everything. Better apartment, better car, better furniture, maybe a nicer watch. His grandfather listened, then asked one question. "What happens if you spend the raise?" Daniel said. "I'll have a better life." His grandfather nodded. "And what happens if you invest the raise?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. His grandfather said, "You can spend the money once, or you can make it produce money for the rest of your life." That sentence stayed with him. Daniel did not become obsessed with frugality. He became obsessed with optionality. He wanted enough assets that eventually work became a choice rather than a requirement. So he made a quiet deal with himself. Every raise would buy him a little more freedom. Not necessarily a bigger lifestyle. A little more freedom. 25 years later, that decision is sitting in his accounts. 7:12 a.m. Daniel is still in his driveway. The lawnmower is still making that slightly unpleasant mechanical noise. The neighbor's luxury SUV is gone. Daniel finishes the last strip of grass. He parks the mower, walks inside, makes coffee, checks his investment account for perhaps 30 seconds. Then closes the laptop. Nothing dramatic happens. There is no celebration, no applause, no soundtrack telling him he has won. He simply continues with his morning. And that may be the most important part, because Daniel did not become wealthy by constantly thinking about looking wealthy. He became wealthy by repeatedly asking a quieter question. What does this decision do to my future? That question changes the way you see almost everything. The car, the house, the raise, the monthly payment, the weekend, the subscription, the investment, the hour you spend working to pay for something you barely use. None of these decisions is enormous by itself, but your financial life is largely the accumulation of decisions that were small when you made them. So the next time you meet someone who looks completely ordinary, do not assume you know their financial position. The old car might be paid off. The modest house might have enormous equity. The plain clothes might be covering a 7-figure balance sheet, and the person displaying the most wealth might simply be displaying the most consumption. There is a difference. One is designed to be seen, the other is designed to compound. You do not need to imitate Daniel. You only need to run your own numbers. Look at your income. Look at what permanently leaves your account. Then ask what would happen if part of every future raise went somewhere nobody could see. Because sometimes the person who looks like he is standing still is actually the one moving fastest, quietly, for decades, and by the time anyone notices, the arithmetic has already finished.